Hi, everyone. I'm CJ Warrant, author of dark romantic suspense, thrillers, contemporary, and mainline romance. My cohort, Rochelle Bradley, up on the, if you see a top left, is an author of romantic comedies, contemporary romance, and paranormal romance. We want to welcome our special guest today. Author Payne Craven is a poet, a paranormal romance author. Her books have sexy badass shifters and sassy mates who save themselves. Well, thank you for joining us. Our second special guest is Conger. He is a Seamus award-winning author of crime, thrillers, and suspense genres. He is known for his tight writing style, dark themes, and subtle humor. Thank you for joining us. This is like wonderful. First question of the morning. What are you guys drinking right now?
I've got coffee.
Coffee.
Yes, I've got coffee as well. And
all right, coffee drinkers all the way around.
Not quite caffeinated yet.
I know. Let's start off with Payne. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your writing, what you write, and so forth.
Oh, geez. Well, my first series that I wrote is called Endangered Mates, and it's pretty cool because I decided to do something a little bit different with my shifters, and so all my shifters are endangered species. So it's actually pretty fun. And then I decided to do a little bit more into it, and I wrote my first reverse harem PNR, paranormal romance. And that one's doing pretty well, and my second one is coming out in December on the 31st.
Wow.
So,
how many books do you have out as of today?
right now, I have 8, I believe.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's in a year. That's not too bad.
No, it's within a year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, mine are shorter because they're series, so people want them out quicker. So... But yeah, it's been fun.
I wish
I'm working on one in Nano right now, so.
Nano, we all, yeah. What about you?
My first Nano.
It's your first Nano?
I'm scared.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, Rochelle is a merch right now.
I saw that.
What about you, Trace? How did you get into it, and what do you write? Details, please.
So I write primarily crime and suspense fiction. I write 2 series. One is the Mr. Finn PI series, and then the other is a Connor Harding series, which is more of kind of a mob fixer crime thriller. And then in addition to those 2 thrillers, I also do standalones. My most recent novel, which came out just a few weeks ago, is called 5 Will Die, and it's a standalone small town mystery police procedural. So
I like those.
I'm sorry?
I love those. Yeah, small town.
I really enjoy it because I like series, and because you can kind of revisit the same characters over and over again, which I think is great. But at the same time, sometimes you get sick of those characters and you kind of want to do something brand new. So I finished the Mr. Finn series. It's kind of topped out at 3 books. I don't know if I'll go back to that or not, but I hope to get at least 5 out of the Connor Harding series. I'm working on the second one in the series now, and then the third one will be hopefully out next year. So
how many books did you have out so far?
So my 5 Will Die was my 6th, which just came out, and then I'm working on now tentatively titled Catch and Release. That's a working title, and I hope to have that out in January.
And what is that about?
That is the second book in the Harding series, and it really give you a little bit of backstory. Connor Harding is kind of a private investigator, but he works for criminals. So the mysteries that he solves are, he's working for some really bad people, which tends to put him into some precarious situations on his own. But in Catch and Release, his client is a retired hitman whose wife and daughter were murdered like 12 years ago. And every year on the anniversary of their murder, he receives a postcard from the killer kind of taunting him. So he hires Connor to protagonist, just using these 12 postcards to track down, and identify the murderer, so he can kind of enact his revenge. So fun storylines.
That is very fun. I got to pick one of your books up because that's like right up my alley. I love, like you say, you get tired of doing a series, and the two books that I have that kind of breaches into the thrillers and the suspense line has romance, but I love that thriller aspects of it, and especially the small towns. But it's just like having a private detective that is working for the bad guys is a cool concept.
I have a question.
I really like that.
For both of you.
Yeah.
For your series, where are your series located? What is the location, the setting?
Mine are basically in Seattle area, in Washington, and also in Africa.
Very cool, Africa.
Yeah. Yeah, the book 1.5 actually is all in Africa. And then my other series is actually based in its own world because they're all monster shifters, so they are in Limbo Islands.
Are they
and
like
I have
are they humans to monsters, or?
Well, they're monsters to humans, so
okay.
it can be either or.
Okay.
Like there's a Wendigo and all kinds of stuff. The main character, she's a banshee. Oh, sorry, my brain.
That's okay.
She is a banshee bird siren. So she's a hybrid, and she kicks ass. She can kill people with her singing or her screeching.
That's where the banshee comes in.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's actually really cool. The second book's going to be even crazier than the first one. So,
is it with the same characters or different characters?
Same for 3 books, and then another character is going to get her harem in it for the last 3 books.
So this is for the reverse harem series.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Yeah, monster shifters in my reverse harem. So, lots of fun.
That sounds very fun. What about you, Trace? Where is your settings in your book?
So the interesting thing about my both of my characters is they're kind of like that knight errant, character where they travel all about helping people. So the first book in the Mr. Finn series, my first novel, is set in Cincinnati. That's where I live, and but at the same time, the other books in that series are set in West Virginia, set in Indianapolis. One is set in Dallas, as I'm traveling to Dallas. The Mirage Man, which is the first book in the Connor Harding series, is set in New York City and Boston. And the small town murder mystery that I just released is set in the fictional town of Lincoln, Ohio, which has a lot of similar characteristics to the town I live in now, which is Lebanon, Ohio. Very, very small town. In the novel, it's like 300 to 500 people. Lebanon
is small.
That small. Yeah,
that is small.
Really small town setting for that book. But yeah, I mean, the great thing is, my characters travel all over, so they're really not anchored to any particular place.
What about you, CJ? You have
very cool.
A couple different series.
Yeah, which one am I working on right now currently? I'm almost done with the 2, but mine mainly is based out of California and also out of Chicago. And mainly out of Chicago. So that's what I'm currently working on. So, drive around Chicago, getting to know the area even more, even though I lived here most of my life. But, you always find some cool places and, in areas that you live. I don't know how you get, if you guys go just for extra inspiration or just a little more knowledge of streets and stuff like that. I get lost just to learn more about the area itself. So that's a lot of fun to me. What about you, Rush?
I have 6 books in the Fortuna, Texas world. It's fictional, but I spent a lot of time in Texas. My grandparents were snowbirds there, and then I have family who live there now. And so it's kind of like Western, kind of like the Dry Plains, Texas area, High Plains. So there's 6 in that series, and then I have a spin-off series, which will be also in the same locale. And then my other stories are just kind of random. I have one that's it's kind of like Dayton, Cincinnati area because I lived my whole life in Ohio, but excuse me. It starts out in our world, but there's a dragon shifter, and they end up in his world, which is a totally different planet. So, or altered universe. I don't know. We don't know. It's wherever you want, what your imagination wants.
Exactly. So, does either of you have a book? Now, I know you have one coming out, Trace, in January. You said, correct?
So I'm hoping that the one I'm working on now, I'm hoping that will be in January. I don't have a hard due.
Yeah. Do you have another book in the works that's coming out soon after that, or that you're working on?
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah. So after that, I'm working on the third in the Connor Harding series, and that's called The Wicked Side. So I hope to have that out probably summer or fall. I don't write quickly. I typically get, one, if I'm lucky, 2 books out in a year, just because it takes me a while to write them. So I'm really jealous of these people who are putting out 6 to 10 books a year, but that's not me. So unfortunately, my readers.
Well, your books are probably typically longer. Or how are they, 100,000 words or something?
Yeah, about 80,000.
Yeah.
About 80,000.
So that's about average. That's about average. Now, are you traditionally published or are you indie published, Trace?
So I'm indie. However, I did have a publisher pick up my Mr. Finn series, which was originally published independently, and then it was picked up by a publisher who has the rights, I think, through next October.
Wow. Okay. What made you decide to allow that? That's a good word to put it, right? Allow.
So,
what made you decide to do that?
So it was a series that I had finished, and I really wasn't doing much with it as far as marketing or promoting it. So I just wanted to see what they could do, and they had really good terms to the contract. They were only going to have it for 3 years, so it wasn't a big lifetime decision.
Commitment.
I probably wasn't going to be doing much with it anyway because I was moving on to another series and the standalones. So I knew that I could either let them have it for a few years and kind of reap some of the rewards of some of their efforts, or it could just sit on the shelf and I could do absolutely nothing with it. So to me, it made sense.
That's a good marketing. That's good marketing on that end.
Yeah.
What about you, Craven? Now,
which
you're
question?
straight indie, right?
Huh?
You're straight indie.
Yes.
Now, would you go, if you had an opportunity, would you go traditional?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, if I got a good offer to a real company, then yeah, I'd probably take it. But yeah, I just like being an indie author. I like connecting with all the people, and and I like having control of it. I've done a few anthologies, and it just kind of was uncomfortable for me because I didn't have any control. I couldn't check how many people were buying or pre-ordering, and and it wasn't, I don't know, I just don't enjoy it so much. I mean, but I do like doing little anthologies here and there just to kind of break it up. But
so what are you in the works right now for you?
Well, right now I'm doing the second book of my reverse harem, and I'm actually having a big pre-order giveaway on my profile on Facebook, and so that's going pretty well.
You're giving away stuff. I don't know if you get so many pre-orders and a giveaway.
Yeah, it's a special. It's a Cerberus stuffed animal, and you can't get it anywhere. It was the last one, and he's really cute, and he's one of my characters in the first book. But something happens at the end of the first book. I can't tell you, but it gets really interesting. It's a
That's
cliffhanger,
a
of
good thing for
course.
a fast writer because those cliffhangers,
But
some of those like those.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But I'm also giving away some Amazon gift cards for the lower numbers of pre-orders. So um, yeah, and I think I'm gonna add maybe a signed paperback or something too.
Awesome.
Yeah, just to kind of amp it up a little.
So this is for a pre-order for your upcoming book.
Right, for the second book in my RH series.
That's
So
I
a
pre-ordered.
smart idea. I might have to steal that idea from you
I ordered the
for my
fluffy.
next big for my next series.
yeah, he's cute. He's cute. I also have a secret project coming out that I'm here soon going to be putting a pre-order up for. But I'm working with a bunch of people. We're all writing our own book. It's basically kind of in the same, not
World.
really same world, but same idea.
Oh God.
But we're all doing different characters. But I can't talk about it too much. But we will be announcing it probably at the end of the month. So I'm excited.
Can you tell us if it's like a paranormal or is it contemporary romance?
I believe it's they're all paranormal,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. I think that people are allowed to
Kinda
do
cool.
whichever, but
Mm-hmm.
it's easier to do paranormal with the theme of it.
Yeah.
And mine will be a paranormal RH.
That's cool. I've got a question for
Yeah.
you, Trace. If you had an opportunity to write a single title book, but it has to have romance in there, would you do it?
So,
And it has
yeah,
to be open door.
you mean like any romantic elements, or
It has to be open door. So yes.
yeah, I mean, I'd be up for that. It's interesting because one of the I was talking to Rochelle about this months ago. We were at an event together, and in my Mr. Finn series, he is estranged from his wife, and he's trying to get back together with his wife. He has a young daughter as well, and so there are some like romance elements to it, but I would never classify them, as like within the genre.
Right.
But I also don't really know much about the genre, and I know there are so many subgenres in romance. But so yeah, I mean, it's fun because I write crime. I've also written some, suspense horror as well. I have a horror novella called The White Boy, and I've written a lot of horror.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm intrigued about that one.
Yeah, that actually it was. So my son is now 10, and this I think happened when he was like 4 years old, and he came up at like 2, 3 in the morning and woke me up, woke me up and he said, Daddy, there's a boy in my room, which, as any parent would probably freak out, I did. So I hop out of bed and we, went into his room, and of course I didn't see anything, and he was standing out in the hallway. Like, he refused to go back into his room. So finally I coaxed him in, and I'm like, what's going on? What did you see? And he said that behind his rocking chair, he had one of those glider rocking chairs in his room. It was kind of an artifact when he was really little. And he said, I woke up and there was a boy behind the rocking chair. So, of course, I've got all the lights on. I'm looking. There's absolutely nothing in the room. And I noticed that he had this really tall Darth Vader figurine. It was like a 3 foot tall, figurine that he got for Christmas one year. And then right next to that was his nightlight. And to me, it made sense. I told him, I said, I think what you saw was the nightlight was casting the shadow of Darth Vader, right on the wall there, because that would have been about the area it would have been. I said, and I think that's what you saw. And he said, no. He said, shadows are black. And I said, well, what color was the boy? And he said, he was white. And then he said, and I'll never forget it, and he said, he didn't have a face. And it freaked me out. So long story, we ended up sleeping in Mom and Dad's bed that night. But so that story stuck with me, and he didn't have any recurring things after that. But I started writing a short story about it, just because I thought, wow, it's an interesting story, and it kept going and kept going and kept going, and it ended up being like a 20,000 word novella that I ended up publishing it. So the first chapter of that book is almost, verbatim what happened between he and I that night, as far as kind of what it is he thought he saw. And then, from there, I kind of went on my own path as far as writing the story. But, I mean, it was fun. It was, because I first started writing horror short fiction. Love it. But I never really wrote, a novel-length horror story. And so this was kind of fun because it was as close as I got to doing that. So, but it was a good book. It actually picked up an award from the Fresh Ink Literary Prize or something for novellas of that year. So it was nice. It turned out to be a good story.
Was that your first book that you actually wrote? Even for publication?
No, that was the technically, I guess it was the third I wrote, but the fourth I published. I think I started writing it as my editor was editing book 2 in my 3-book spin series. And I just kind of threw it on the shelf, and I ended up writing the 3rd book in that series, and then I went back to it. So yeah, as far as chronologically, it was the 4th book I published.
Yeah. Wow. That was awesome.
That's the type of stuff that I always like to write. I just never really tried to write a novel length. And then at one point, I was going to write a follow-up on it, and I probably got about 2/3 of the way through, and I couldn't figure out where it was going to go, so I put it up on the shelf, and I haven't gone back to it yet. But one of these days I might. It's still on my hard drive somewhere, so I might pick it up at some point.
Can you give us a little hint, more detail about the boy in your story?
Yeah. So what he finds out, what the father finds out is, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. They, as an adult, he and his family live in the house that he lived in as a kid. Like his parents had moved out, and he took it over with his wife and his son. And he is telling the story as the book progresses. He's telling the story to his father about this thing that his boy keeps seeing in his room. And because in the book the boy sees this entity multiple times, and the father says, well, that's kind of odd. So he kind of disappears. He goes back to his house. He comes back the next day with this journal, and he shows the boy's father, you saw this exact same thing about the same age in the same place, because it was in the closet of his room, which is now his son's room. And so what the book kind of explores is this idea that Quinn, who is the father of the young boy, experienced a lot of these same things in the same house, in the same room, but had forgotten a lot of it. And then they start to kind of suss it out, and they find out that that he saw the white boy shortly after a boy was kidnapped or was abducted and disappeared in the neighborhood. And what you ultimately find out, and I'm not giving really any spoilers away here, is that the white boy that they see in the book is kind of an omen and is warning of something that's more menacing that's coming, who is a black shadow. If anyone's ever heard of the Hat Man mythology, paranormal story, it's very similar to that. And what the funny thing was, I didn't even know what that was. I wrote the book, and I had this character in there, and I think I kind of described him as like a scarecrow that is, completely black, and he has this kind of this straw hat. And someone wrote me that had read the book. They wrote me and they said, "Hey, this sounds a lot like the Hat Man lore." I thought, I'd never heard of that, so I looked it up, and I'm like, actually it was really similar as I started getting into the backstory. So, but it was a fun book to write. I mean, it's short. You can read that thing in like 2 hours. I wish it took me that long to write it, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. So how long, back to you, Payne, how long does it take you to write a full book? I mean, because you said you had you had 8 to 10 books out in a year. I'm like, that's like, holy cow. Total focus.
It usually takes me about 2 to 3 months per book, but they're not super long. They're 35 to 40,000 words.
Okay.
right now. My next one is going to be hopefully 50. I'm pushing for it this month. Seeing if I can do it. Because one book in a month is, a lot, but it's not too bad. But yeah, so yeah, it takes me about that long. And then I have um, my girls who beta read and stuff. A couple of them are actually editors, so they just do it for me because they love me.
So they're fast editing.
Oh yeah. Um, and then I get it out as soon as I can because people, that's what they want. But then I got sick here recently, and I've had to push back my books a little bit because I couldn't write at first when I got out. So I actually just started for Nano. So right, I was doing a little too much too fast, I think. So I'm kind of slowing it down a little bit.
Giving your brain a break.
Yeah. But it's good because I'm actually doing really well. I'm actually really happy to write again, and it's fun. And my second book is crazy. I have a diphthalic character, so.
Explain.
Yeah.
Explain.
Two Peens.
Oh.
So it's been really entertaining to write, actually.
That makes schematics so hard.
So right next to each other.
I mean, you know what? I bet
Right next to each other.
like that at our work.
Oh yeah, it's actually a real thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a guy who's really famous right now for his, because they actually both work. So
I think he's in the porn industry, actually. To be honest, I think he's in the porn industry.
Oh, he is. I've only read about him, but it is interesting.
I'm sure Chase wants to turn around and get out of this conversation.
No, now I'm really intrigued to learn more about it.
You should look it up. It's really interesting. It's it's really rare, but it's really interesting.
How I found out about it. How I found about it is one of my friends, she goes, "You got to see this." So she sends me the link, and I open this up. I'm like, "Really? A porn site?" She's like, "But you got to see it." So I did, and I'm like, my mouth, I'm like this whole time, my mouth is open, and my husband's like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "Nothing." It's like crazy. As I'm watching it still. But yeah,
Yeah, I think he actually has an OnlyFans and a couple other sites or something. He's like, because he's the only one known of right now, I guess. I don't know. But
that would be
I thought it'd be entertaining.
Character to read. That would be an interesting character to read. And how he
would
use
it's gonna be crazy.
Back to the ghost story. My first book, Forgetting Jane, is based on out of a small town, and the main character, she sees ghosts after a huge trauma that she went through. And she lost her memory, so she's trying to get her memory. Plus, she's being hidden by the small town cop because the killer is looking for her. So in this meantime, she's seeing these couple apparitions, and it's pretty scary. When you write a ghost story or any kind of story that has a little bit of like dark, criminal aspects or even like the ghostly aspects, you don't realize how much of an impact you have on your readers. I had a friend of mine that bought that book, and she's like, she bought it. She goes, "I could not sleep. I had to sleep with the light on." She goes, "Because that freaked me out in the one scene, because the character is in the hallway, and she's about to tell the chief of police who she was hiding in his house, and something. And next thing she knows, she feels this chill, and her head starts to bother her. She turns and she sees his figure, and it's like, not. And I guess the way I wrote it, it was just spine chilling enough that it affected her. So I read a little bit in the beginning of The White Boy, and it gave me the same feeling. And I was like, wow. And I love a story that way. I love a story. I can only imagine when, with that character of yours, Payne, the double fallacy. He would give me the same feeling too. Visceral. Huh?
Yeah.
I think there's some good merchandising opportunities with that character. Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a good ad.
We know a good PA that could do a double penis. Wow.
There you go. Shoot me their way, man. Let's do it.
That's funny. So where would you want to go next, like in the next few years? Where do you see more series coming out? Is there a little different direction you want to go with your careers? Different ideas for books and stuff? Traveling to events?
I actually am having my first author signing event next year. I'm really excited. It's up in Seattle. It's called Seattle Readers and Writers, and it's in July. I'm gonna be having a table and everything. So, a friend of mine, she runs it every year. Yeah, so it's my first one. I've been signed up for it for the last year and a half. I was going to do it this year, but COVID. So, and so I can't wait. And Brandy wants me to come to the one in Ohio in 2023. So we'll see if that works out.
The one in Columbus.
Yeah, I'm way over on the West Coast, so it's like travel. Yeah, it'd be fun. So I would love that. I don't really know anybody over here for that, so.
Is there a lot of Is there a writing community near you, Payne?
No, I'm in a teeny tiny little town. I live out in the country though, on a horse ranch. So.
Horse ranch?
Oh geez. We got like 16 horses and 2 minis, chickens, 5 labs, and lots of kitties so far. And we're gonna get some cows eventually.
Rochelle, I know where we could go for our next writers retreat. Payne's
We got lots of property. Bring a tent. It's nice out here though. We're up in the mountains of Colorado, the Simcoe Mountains. I mean, not Colorado. Sorry. I used to live in Colorado, so don't mind me. In Washington, and there's some really interesting little things out here.
Columbia Gorge.
We are right off the Columbia Gorge, and but we're up high. It's fun. It's really pretty most of the time.
That's not most of the time.
Yeah, it gets dry in the summer, so everything kind of dies. It's hot.
Like really dry? Because you're
we have a lot of fires in the summertime. No, I mean it's trees and everything, but it gets
We don't get any rain during the summer.
We don't get any rain during the summer typically, and we're in Washington, so that's kind of weird.
Wow.
So.
But you're, like you said, you're more towards the mountainy area.
We're on a mountain, yeah.
Yeah.
We're on a mountain, so.
And we get snow.
We get snow and all that.
I'm assuming that's your husband.
Yeah, he's butting in on my interview. No. He wishes.
Is he rolling his eyes right now?
He's playing a video game. So, yeah.
She's watching and she says that she's
Very cool.
Wow.
Now
Yeah.
that's small.
Yeah.
Hmm. I used to live in a town smaller than that, actually. When I lived in Colorado, I lived in McClave, and it was literally a school for everybody and a post office, and that was all that was there, and houses and farms. But it was a very few people.
Is that
So,
wow?
Wow.
wow. So it's like one
Is
family?
that even a town?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a lot of those up in Montana. A lot of teeny towns.
There's a lot of towns like that in Montana. That's like what
Hmm.
a family town. Is that what we call
I
it? A
guess.
family
It's really small.
So, Trace, you know Rochelle through the writing community in your area.
Yes, we've bumped into each other at a few events. Yeah.
Now, do you do Nano also, or no?
Do Nano?
Nano.
No, I do not. I've never tried it, and I have no desire to. I totally respect the people that do. It's just not my. It's not my cup of tea. But,
Now, are you more of a slow, methodical writer? There goes Rochelle. She's ready to fight.
yeah, I am, and I really only write between 2 and 3 hours a day on fiction. I'm a freelancer as well. I do a lot of freelance writing.
Okay.
So on two kids, a wife, and after school activities with kids, and there's not enough time.
Been there, done that. Yes.
Yeah, and I value my weekends, so I don't want to write on the weekends.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I think if you can do it, great, but yeah, nothing I would ever want to do. But
Well, not right now, anyway. I mean,
right,
that might change when like the kids get old enough or older and out of the house, because that's what the situation I'm in. We're empty nesters
Yeah.
now, so it's like my day is pretty much free. My husband's working, so I focus on, and this is my career, and this is what I'm going to do. So it is a lot different when my kids were young and stuff,
Yeah.
and they take up a lot of time between activities, feeding them, making
Yeah.
sure they're alive.
Yep.
And being taxi drivers, exactly,
Yeah.
and partial coaches, so it's all that.
I think it's good for accountability too, because I know a lot of people will kind of, especially if they do it in groups, you kind of have to get your word count in, right? Because someone's watching over your shoulder.
Hey, Rochelle, Jen can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
And Laura, no one can hear you.
Yeah, I can.
Just fine. It could be Instagram also. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you're clear with us.
Oh no.
That's okay. You talk too much.
Yeah.
No, you can't do this. That's not nice. That's for you, Rochelle. There you go.
Jen and Laura, maybe leave and come back and see if you can hear then.
Yeah, that could be.
It might be Instagram.
I guess, yeah. Sometimes it just gives us trouble.
As I can attest to this morning.
Are you going to see when we first started all this and doing this live shows, it's like, it's like going uphill. Like, we have to find it. It'll help. The more we do it, it works. My brain just lost track of my thoughts. It just went this way somewhere. I apologize. Okay, let's get back. Squirrel. What is that? I thought thought it was a squirrel. See? Brain. That's good.
And cheaper.
And cheaper. Most definitely cheaper. So my question is to both of you, where do you get your inspiration for your stories?
For me, it's my love of animals, and my Endangered Mates series actually, I wanted to kind of bring to light issues that come up with endangered animals as well as have them be shifters. And my villain in the first book and throughout is actually a poacher. So he actually wants the shifters as trophies as well as regular animals. And so he's a major douche and everyone hates him. He is horrible. Yeah. He is a bad guy. Actually, as you read the series, because how I do it is it's literally one after the other, and but different characters, main characters, but all my other characters are still there, so you continue to know what's going on with everybody through my series. So everybody's still there, and he actually gets his just desserts a little bit, but he's still around, unfortunately.
You got to have
Eventually,
the bad guy with the good guys.
Yeah, the second book actually, another villain joins in, and she kind of has him under her. So she's a necromancer, so she's real bad. But yeah, so pretty much I just really wanted to bring a different kind of light to the disparage that all the animals go through that are going extinct, because there's so many. And then go ahead. Actually, it's kind of like I don't know what they're going to be, and then it just kind of works out. But I look at the lists of endangered species and stuff and just try to find the inspiration for the characters, but they kind of pick them themselves, in my head. Yeah, like the first one is actually a white rhino and a bison. So my white rhino FMC, she is a badass for sure, and she does save herself, so in a major way. So they're fun though, it's different, and that's what I was going for with them. Something different that I hadn't really read a lot of, and like my shifters that I have aren't very common, and there's so many common shifters that people use. I wanted to kind of change it up a little. So I've got like a pygmy hippo and a gorilla and a giraffe in the second book. So it's a menage, that one. But it's really fun. I don't know. I just really like changing it up. Yes, pygmy hippo, Laura.
What about you, Trace?
So a few of my storylines come from actual cases, or at least are inspired by actual cases. The
Nice.
first book that I put out, The Shadow Broker, was at the time there was this big fascination with this idea of the dark web, and there was a website on the dark web called the Silk Road, which sold narcotics. So you could actually, you could use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and you could buy narcotics. You could buy any sorts of, stuff that you wouldn't be able to find at Target, and have it shipped right to your house. And so I thought, well, that's it's really interesting. So the whole plot of the Shadow Broker was a guy who has a similar website on the dark web, but he was buying and selling identities for identity theft. And my protagonist, the PI, is hired to find him. And then one of the other books that I wrote, called The Prison Guard's Son, which was the third book in the Finn series, was based or inspired by the Jamie Bulger murder, which was happened in the UK in the 90s, in which a young boy, 3 or 4 years old, was abducted from a shopping mall, brutally murdered, and then the 2 boys that actually killed him were only 9 years old. And they were quickly caught. They were tried as adults. They were sentenced to 10 years in a juvenile detention center. And they were released at 18. But the kicker was they were given new identities, and they disappeared. And so I thought, well,
Wow.
I always wanted to write a story about my PI having to find someone in witness protection, because it's basically impossible. And with each case that I write, or with each novel that I write, I try and kind of up the stakes and make the case a little harder. And to me, that was something that was very difficult to do. And I thought, well, what if he was in a similar situation and he was hired to kind of find those 2 murderers 20, 30 years later, after they were given new identities and basically put in witness protection. So, I mean, a lot of my storylines are based loosely off of real things that happen. But, and then some are just completely made up.
That's really cool.
That is cool. I remember that case. Boy, I remember that case.
Yeah, it was.
But I didn't know that that's what they did with when they got out. I didn't know they gave new identities, because I mean that would make sense. But in the same sense, I'm sure the police department or the government or the British intelligence would keep an eye on them. There would have to be, especially in a case.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it was interesting because I did a lot of research into that case as I was writing the book, and it's it's an absolute heartbreaking case because it affected so many people. But what's really interesting is, of the 2 boys, one of them, as far as we know, went on to never got into trouble again. He just kind of disappeared, and the other one did. I think he went through 3 or 4 state-sponsored identities, because he kept either being outed because he was getting arrested again. At one point, I think he was caught with like child pornography. At one point, he was caught dealing heroin or something, and so the government goes to all this trouble to basically give him a new identity and help him disappear again, which I don't think would ever happen in the United States. But it's definitely a fascinating case from a lot of different for a lot of different reasons. But I just thought it was something interesting to write about. And my characters in the book are not those characters in real life, but they're it's a similar case that's based on that. So it's a great question. The first one, probably because I had no idea what the hell I was doing, was a little too violent than it should be. Looking back, and I may, when I get the rights back, I may actually even soften it a little bit. It's not gratuitous, I don't think. It's not like what I would call like torture porn or anything like that. But the individuals in that book are bad people, and I used violence, and I probably described it a little in too much detail, but I used violence to kind of show how bad these people really are, and to show what's really at stake, for my protagonist. And it was interesting because when the publisher bought the rights to it, I even told him, I said, look, because they had their people read through it. And I said, if you want to tone any of this down, I'd be happy to do it, because I wanted to do it anyway. I didn't think that I thought maybe it was too violent to have a large commercial appeal. And they're like, nope, we like it as it is. We're not going to change any of it. And there's really only a few scenes that, I think were questionable. So I've actually considered that when I get the rights back, I may go through and soften some things. And I think it's important to the storyline to keep a lot of it in. But I think I got too into the descriptions, and I think that turned a lot of people off. But that was the first book. The other 2 in that series are, there's some violence in it, but it's relatively tame compared to the first. And, it's interesting because in the other books that I've written, I would say it's like an action movie. It's the same type of violence you would see, if you were watching a James Bond film or something like that.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to turn anybody off. But just that first book, I think, I kept my foot on the gas a little too long, I think.
Did you get any negative reviews on those?
I did. I think the only negative reviews that I got were people who didn't like the violence.
Okay.
But I also got a lot of really positive reviews on the violence, which I don't know what that says about my
I think
readers.
it's up to the
But
reader. I think it's up to the reader, actually.
yeah, it is. And I don't believe in trigger warnings. I don't believe in telling people what's coming. It's not my thing. But I mean, it fit for the characters. It was not out of character for the people to do the things that they did.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like a splatterpunk,
Right.
type novel where it's just blood after blood after blood. But it did play, I think, in my opinion, it played an important role in the book.
Yeah. But at the same time, the rawness of that violence, sometimes it triggers that, oh my God, that emotion that you want to read for a reader to have, to want to keep reading. And that would be something I would look for. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah,
necessarily the violence aspects of it, but the intensity of the scene. And if it does require that rawness of that violence to be there, then all it is drives the story forward. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having us. We're almost done here. We got a minute left. Please take a second and tell us where we could find your books and where we could find you.
You can find me or you can find my books on Amazon. And you can find me on pretty much every social platform. All of my things say Payne Craven or Payne Craven author. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Grammy
And
Conger just joined us. Is that a relative?
yeah, yes, it is.
Hi,
And
Grammy.
coming in at the last minute.
Right.
Right. So I only have one social media presence, and that's MySpace. You can go to MySpace and find all about me. And I'm totally kidding. Um,
I was
the
going to
best.
I
say,
was like, wow.
I'm waiting for that to come back because I think that's going to be the next Goodreads. We'll see. But no, you can find me. Easiest place is my website. It's traceconger.com. And it's very creative. Yeah, and my books, with the exception of my first series, because my publisher is keeping those on Amazon exclusively. All my other books are published wide. I'm in ebook, I'm in paperback, I'm in audio. So, you can pretty much find me anywhere. But best place is the website.
awesome.
That's right. So come on out. Bring
What
the
is it?
kids
Explain what it is.
and coffee and live music.
Far from
So
me.
book your plane ticket now.
So it's this Saturday? Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, I don't even know. I know it's right around there. But yeah,
Well,
it's
that sounds like fun.
yeah, that
Really
sounds about
quick
right.
before we let you go, is there a future events that you're going to be attending that let everybody know? Like author events and stuff?
Well, I said one in Seattle and possibly another one in Ohio. I'm trying to get into another one, but haven't figured it out yet. But so far, Seattle next year.
Cool.
Yeah, and my events have kind of been on hold just with COVID, but I'm hoping in 2022 to get back into things. And I think I'm scheduled to be at Magna Cum Murder, which is in Indianapolis in April, although I think that might still be up in the air. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Short answer is I don't know, but
I'm crossing my fingers. I hope so.
Yes, us too, because I have I think 9 or 10 events next year. So I'm going to be a busy, busy girl. Yes. What about you, Rochelle? About the same.
one at a time. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, our audience, for being out there. And you guys have a great Wednesday. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks.
having me.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
The Christmas
Oh,
thing. Oh, that's right. The holiday
yay.
that we are having in December. And we have, well, you brought it up. You say it. Correct. December 8th from 1:45 to 9. Yeah. We only have a few spots left, so Trace, I hope you turn around and join us for 15 minutes. You can have it set up and everything.
Will that be available on MySpace or just Instagram?
On all the platforms, damn it.
All right. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It happens on Facebook.
Gotcha.
And you could set it up prior to it, and you don't even have to be there.
Okay. Hope
you could be there.
Let me talk to my parole officer, and we'll hopefully work something out.
Just 15 minutes.
Yeah, right.
For Moon Granny.
She runs the show.
Well, thank you so much again. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.